Welcome to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another basic podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Summerlyn Powers. How's it going today?
Going good. How about you, Tom?
Doing really well. Doing really well. It's a Labor Day weekend. It's the extended weekend. I'm really enjoying it and really excited to sit down and chat with you. I wasn't sure if you'd be free today with it being the holiday, but glad we were able to get this booked.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we could work it out.
Yeah, for sure. So, for everybody that's just kind of getting to meet you for the first time, all our listeners and stuff of that nature, you're from Alabama, correct?
Originally.
Originally, yes. So, what was it like growing up in Alabama for you?
Yeah, well, I grew up in southern Alabama, so I was right on the bay, opening up into the Gulf of Mexico. So I went to the beach and the bay a lot growing up. It was a beautiful, cute little town, and yeah, I loved growing up there. I had a good experience, and my family, my immediate family all live in Fairhope, so it was great to be supported by all of them and to get to go back and visit there. So yeah.
Yeah, I knew Fairhope sounded familiar. I drive past it all the time when I go visit my dad down in South Florida.
Oh yeah.
Because I live out in South Texas, so I'll cut down through 10 and I'll go through like Mobile and all that stuff. And I knew Fairhope
Yep.
sounded familiar. So
Yeah. Fairhope is right across the bay from Mobile, so
yeah,
you've probably seen it on a couple signs.
yeah. And actually that trip just on 10, taking 10 across, that's like one of the best trips I've ever taken, just in general. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
It's super easy,
yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, so growing up in Fairhope, was music just kind of always there, or was that something you kind of discovered later on in life?
My parents were both musical. My dad played guitar and wrote songs, not at a professional level, but just something that he enjoyed doing. And my mom, she competed in pageants. So it was all very, she took the piano lessons, the dance lessons, the voice lessons, all of that stuff. So music was always in my family. And I think when I started singing, I like had a solo in church when I was maybe 7 years old. And that was kind of my first exposure to singing music in front of a crowd. And yeah, I just fell in love with it. I think it always felt really natural to me.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, so having that first bite of music, of singing and performing in church, when did you kind of start exploring like writing your own music? Was that something that came like way later, or was it something that you started exploring almost immediately?
Nobody told me to write a song or told me that that was even something that people did.
Mhm.
I think I was just a creative kid, and I just remember sitting on my windowsill in my little notebook and, writing songs about my life as a 9-year-old.
Mhm.
You're not going to write like breakup songs at 9. But I look back at that, and yeah, just, it's so sweet to flip through notebooks of crayon
Yeah.
writing, little songs. And yeah, it's kind of cool to look back and see, I guess, what a natural expression writing music was to me,
Mhm.
especially because I didn't have that modeled for me. It just kind of happened.
So it was just kind of like a natural progression of maturing as a person, and then as you started writing, your writing started to kind of mature, and then just through essentially osmosis, is that fair to say that you kind of learned
Yeah.
how to write?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Because it's always interesting just learning how people learn how to write, or how they go about figuring out that they're a writer in general. And it's fairly common that they just kind of learn how to do it, like not even having somebody teach them, but it's just like they listen to the music. It's like, okay, I'm picking up what they're doing here, so I'm going to transcribe that to what I'm trying to do, and then they just kind of mold their writing style into that.
Hmm.
So um so growing up Fairbanks, your parents were musical, you started in church. When do you kind of start recording your own music? Is that super young, or where are you kind of at there?
Yeah, I did start really young, especially with the support of my parents. I think them both being musical, the second they saw that in me, they were ready to support me. And so I wrote and recorded and released my first commercial song when I was 11 years old. It was called Alabama Kind of Girl, and you can
Mhm.
still go find it on YouTube. It's a sweet little song. I've definitely come a long way since then, but that was my first start into recording music. And oddly enough, nobody in my town had ever, recorded, released a song,
Mhm.
especially at my age. So it got really popular in my town and even way up in Birmingham, the
Cool.
other side of the state. People started to know it. So it was just a funny thing. But that was my first experience in recording music at 11.
Nice. It's one of those things. It's really cool that you didn't kind of like try and purge that from the internet or take it down as much as possible. Because a lot of musicians, when they start really young, and they kind of go through that metamorphosis of, okay, I started here, and but now I'm trying to present this kind of image. They'll take that kind of or take that early music down. But the fact that you're just kind of letting it be is really cool.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people know me originally from that, and I would never want to take away somebody's first introduction to my music, because that can
Mhm.
change as
Mhm.
you get older. I would never want to, I think, take away the opportunity for a listener to say, "Oh, wow, look how far she's come." And
Yeah.
I knew that then, and this is so crazy to see what she's doing now, because I love to do that with artists.
Going back deeper into their archives and seeing some of the earlier stuff they've released.
Yeah, yeah.
Guys.
I think I mean, there is no comparison to Lizzo here, don't get me wrong, but I think she still has some of her original music up. That's one of
Guys.
those artists that, like, she still has her older things, and it's whoa, it's, like, so cool to see how far she's come? So
Yeah.
I love that with artists.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of gives you it gives you that like map of, okay, it gives you a map of how musicians kind of forge their path, but it also gives you that reality that, okay, I don't have to be perfect right off the bat. Like
Yeah,
musicians, they don't all start off with the number one hit or whatever. It's that there's a process to this, and I think that's really cool that you're kind of aware of that. And it's like, okay, you're kind of showing the process as you go through your career.
yeah.
So
Well,
what's that?
thanks, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about Alabama Kind of Girl because that was your first single, like commercial single. What was the thought process when you first started working on it? Obviously, you're like 11 years old, so I don't know how much of a thought process went into it, but wh- where were you kind of at when you were working on that song?
So my mom and I were driving in the car one day in like somewhere like Mississippi or
Mhm.
somewhere, and this girl, a couple, like a mom and a daughter, had walked into a gas station, I think, and they had these T-shirts. This it was a big thing in the South. I don't know if you've seen these in Texas, but there are these T-shirts that would say, I'm a sweet tea drinking, I'm camo wearing,
Yeah,
whatever, like Southern kind of
yeah.
girl or whatever. And my mom had the idea. She was like, what if you made a song kind of inspired by those T-shirt slogans?
Mhm.
And I was, 11, so I was like, "Man, maybe,"
Yeah,
but eventually I ended up co-writing it with my voice coach at the time, Marjorie Searcy, and Jordy Searcy, who now has had his Ryman debut and is touring everywhere with Ben Rector, and Stephen Day is doing amazing things. So crazy how it all comes around. But they co-wrote that song with me, and we recorded it in Mobile, and that is where it came from.
nice, awesome. It's really cool that, you know, it started from a very pure place, a very innocent, essentially an innocent place where it's like you were on a trip with your mom and she's like, "Hey, you should write a song about this." And did you think you were just going to continually start releasing music from there? Or was this just kind of like a one-off thing?
I don't know what I thought. I mean,
Okay.
you don't think. You're
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
think I think I was just like, okay, this thing. I mean, I had no expectations. And that's kind of the great thing about being a kid is you don't really think about
Mm,
what's coming next. It just allows you to be present in what you're doing right then. And it was so cool to have that experience and be so present at 11.
nice. And just the fact that your mom was and your family was so open to the idea of like, hey, we should see what this does. And if it turns into something great, if it's a one-off thing and this is the only song she ever releases, that's fine too. Um, but then you did obviously go on to release more music. You know, you released Blue Satin Lace in 2018 and so on and so on. Um, from Alabama Kind of Girl to Blue Satin Lace, was it just kind of getting through school and then you'll kind of pursue your musical careers or
I mean, I was pursuing my music career pretty much while I was in school.
okay,
I was traveling, playing shows. I went to a lot of songwriters festivals and
okay,
expos to really learn from other people. Went to California, Colorado, Mississippi. I mean, some more local spots too. But I just remember my family encouraging me to go to these things, and then it became this great network because when
mhm,
I moved to Nashville, going to Belmont University in 20, I guess it was 2020, 2019, 2020,
mhm,
as a freshman, I knew all these people that were living here because I'd gone to all those festivals and things while I was in middle school and high school.
yeah,
So yeah,
it,
gigging and just connecting with other artists was always something that I did throughout school.
nice. So it was like you were building those connections while you were growing up, and so they had that. A lot of them probably had that. Oh, I've watched this girl grow up, so of course we're going to continue this conversation once she gets out to Nashville. So,
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
Nashville always the idea or the move that you wanted to make, or did that just kind of come later?
Yeah, I think it pretty much was. I would come up to Nashville and record um, in those younger years. And I remember Belmont being mentioned a
Mhm.
lot. And we went and visited, and I'd never been on a college campus, and it started snowing, and it just felt like this magical little moment. And we went inside, and this college girl asked us if we were touring, and me, and being in middle school, was like, oh, she thinks I'm old enough to tour college, you know. So I just remember after having that experience, Belmont in Nashville was always a dream. And I don't think that there was um really anything else in my mind that I truly wanted to do after high school.
For sure, for sure. During those early formative years, from like when you started with Alabama Kind of Girl and then went into Blue Satin Lace, who were you listening to as far as just like musical influences, not so much like on the business side of things?
Mhm. Growing up, country music was always on the radio, so that was
Mhm.
one thing, and you definitely hear that in my
Yeah.
early stuff. And when I got into high school, I was exposed to John Mayer and the Beatles and all of these. I mean, I don't know, just kind of there is more out there than
Mhm.
just, what's on country music radio. And I started exploring all of those different sounds and some classic country that you hear in Blue Satin Lace,
Yeah.
Johnny Cash, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think even that whole self-titled EP that Blue Satin Lace is off of, it's so fun to get to listen to it because you can tell it's a self-exploration.
Mhm.
Every track kind of has a different inspiration, and you can really hear it, and it's exciting to me to kind of get to have that hallmark.
Nice. Nice. I do want to comment. I would do want to applaud you for doing a Christmas song. I, I'm
Oh.
I was sitting there looking through it the other day, just kind of looking through your Spotify playlist, and I'm starting to see that more and more where independent musicians, but start releasing or are releasing Christmas music, but I'm starting to think maybe it was just like a COVID thing because they just had the time to do it. So, because a lot of it's like 2020, 2021, that
Yeah.
ballpark where they released Christmas music, and it's just I don't know. I think more independent musicians should do that.
Well, thanks.
So, um, so now you're in Nashville. You just graduated from Belmont,
Yep.
correct? How's that
Mhm.
feel?
It feels good and it feels scary. you know
hmm It's, I mean, just graduating from college in general is scary, especially when
yeah.
you're going into a field where it's like, I don't know, but it's just graduating in general is scary. So I understand where you're coming from there. So
Yeah.
what's the obviously still releasing music and stuff of that nature? You just released a single is it exactly a month ago? Is my math correct on that one?
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
You released a single a month ago. Is this kind of what you see yourself doing for now? Is releasing music, or what's kind of the plans moving forward?
Yeah, so I've been releasing singles and it will be leading up to a project in
Mm.
October. I released Always on My Mind back in August, then well, let me get my month straight. I released Always Out of My Mind in July,
Yeah, there you go.
and then Healing Like I Am in August. And I actually have a single coming out on Friday.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yep. Mhm.
What's the have you announced it yet? What's kind of the story behind this song?
So this next song I haven't talked too much about, but I'll be
Mhm.
happy to talk about it on here. So the next song is called "Let's Roll,"
Nice.
with an exclamation point. It's it's really fun. It's definitely unlike anything that I've released before. This song is kind of an allegorical story about having a sort of rescuing salvation kind of moment, but
Mhm.
it's told in this sort of Appalachian, you fall in a river and you don't know if you're going to live or die. And then somebody kind of reaches in and grabs you out. And it sort of comes to a point in the chorus when it hits this classic blues riff and, just says, I found the rock, let's roll,
Nice.
so it's really fun. And I'm excited to have something so lively and true to my story in a way that I think relates to everybody in my catalog.
Nice. It sounds like it's going to be a little bit more southern rock. If
Yes.
it
Yeah.
just with the title like "Let's Roll" with the exclamation point, it's like it's going to be a little bit heavier than what you usually do. I have a feeling. So
Totally. I
yeah,
think you'll dig it. Yeah.
nice, awesome, awesome. Can't wait to hear it. What was obviously releasing a bigger project nowadays is, I don't want to say it's a gamble, but it's a tricky thing to kind of navigate, especially with Spotify and all that stuff. What was the kind of the approach when you decided, okay, I want to release a fuller project? Did it start off as like just a couple of songs and then it turned into a project, or did you know right away like I want to do a project?
I've known for the past couple of years I wanted to release a project that said I'm Summerlyn Powers. This
Hmm.
is me. This is my music. I have something to say.
Hmm.
And so I've taken these past couple of years. If you notice, if you look back at my discography, I've just kind of released singles that don't have a lot in common with each other
Hmm.
over the past, I guess, 3 years or so. And during that time, I chose to do singles because I was looking for that sound that I wanted to base this project off of. And it's still an EP, so it's not like a big
Yeah,
album. I feel like I'm still building my fan base and the people that are listening to my music. So, you want to give them a little snack, not a
nice.
whole 3 course, four
Meal. Yeah,
course meal.
yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm doing with this project. It's called The Hive, and it has 5 songs on it. The singles will be on there, plus some songs that will be brand new
Nice.
when the project comes out.
So there's the when you say brand new songs that have never been played live, nothing.
They've been played live, but
Okay.
they have never been released.
Cool, cool. And I kind of like that strategy that you went with where, especially during the pandemic, you kind of took that opportunity to find your son. Like you had music released before, which it kind of got people paying attention to you, but you took this opportunity to kind of really hone in your sound and try and find. It's like, okay, I like this, I like this, and just kind of really find your sound. And now you're finally taking that it, I'm going to say full project because it's EP, is fuller than a single, but you're
Mhm.
releasing a full project that's going to make that declarative statement like, hey, this is who I am, and I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah. So always on my mind was the first single for this. Why'd you kind of choose that as your first single?
Always on My Mind feels like a quintessential summer song to
Hmm.
me. It is super catchy, it's upbeat, it's fun. And that one, it's not, it doesn't come from a personal story, but it still feels like something that everybody can grab onto, and something that I want to grab onto, because that melody is so catchy and hooky. And the idea of, um, you know, I'm not in any kind of serious relationship or anything like that, but sort of the idea of when you are, I guess, sort of imagining being in that place and saying, hey, I was looking for you all this time, and now I kind of feel like I found you. You were
Mhm.
always on my mind. I kind of always knew who you would be, or who I thought you would be, but now I know because I kind of knew you all along, is sort of the idea of it.
Mm. Gotcha, gotcha. Um, and so now that you're kind of in the middle of this release, you've got the new single dropping on Friday, you've got two singles out, and then the EP coming out later this year. What's kind of running through your mind right now? What's got you staying awake at night?
Definitely keeping all my marketing in line.
Fair.
Thankfully, I have a great team. My PR agent, Krista Metler, is amazing. And it definitely helps to have people behind you. But at the same time, because I'm an independent artist, I have to wear a lot of hats a lot. So it's even hard to be creative. I mean, last night was the first time this past week that I've gotten to sit down with my guitar intentionally and just create
Mm.
new ideas. Because when you're an independent artist and you want people to hear this music you've been working on for so long, it's hard to kind of stay creative and have that business brain at the same time, but you
Mhm.
have to do it.
Yeah,
And I've learned a lot, and I still have a lot more to learn when it
for
comes
sure.
to marketing. But yeah.
I've for some reason I thought you were going to say last night was the first time you got to sleep. Like
Oh.
just in my mind, it was like, because I know what it's like to have a big project coming up, and it's like, okay, that week before that, whatever, it's like I don't sleep, so it's just like, okay, what am I doing? What am I, just kind of fully
Yeah.
focused, and then I end up burning myself out at the end of the day, and it's like, dang it. So,
Yeah.
but, um, so kind of looking at that approach, kind of having to wear the multiple hats. I'm assuming you're very active on social media. What's kind of your approach on social media?
My approach on social media is to try to give my friends and my fans an idea of my brand,
Mhm.
and to let them know that I'm here and I care about them, and I want to give them this gift of my music that I think that they'll enjoy. So just trying to put my brand and my music in the best light. That I can, that feels really accurate to the music. I really just about like building connection, whether
Mhm.
that's through a reel or a post. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, is just give
Nice.
people an idea of what's coming, and get them excited. So
For sure. Have you thought about recording like the creative process? Like last night when you were very intentional about sitting down and working on new music, have you thought about either doing an Instagram live or just like recording that process and cutting it down into some kind of a video to post on social? Because I've seen that work really well for a lot of musicians, because it kind of brings people in on the process, and it's like they see the song from the early stages and kind of watch how it naturally progresses.
right. I love that idea. Um, and I would love to do that in the future. But to be honest, because I've been so bogged down in this marketing
Mhm.
space, creative time feels personal and sacred.
Mm.
And I want to be careful as an artist that I don't just, um, I don't know, kind of.
Spill the tea or let the
I'm trying to, yeah, I guess I want to be important, that as an artist that I don't kind of put everything that's
Mm.
important to me out there like a, dance monkey kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
I want to keep things that are important to me, because while, as an artist, I'm a public figure and I want
Mm.
to connect with people and I want to invite people in. I think it's really important that as public figures, you guard the things that are sacred to you when you need to, because we're not like meant to be at
Yeah.
everybody's beck and call all the time,
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that makes sense. It's like you got to keep your personal time for yourself, and like stuff that's sacred to you, keep it sacred to you, because at the end of the day, that's for you. It's not for anybody else. And I 100% understand that. When I was throwing that out there, sometimes people just enjoy like throwing out the creative process. So I didn't know if that was something
Totally.
that would work for you.
No, that's
Uh,
great. I'll keep that in mind for the
yeah,
future.
because it's just one of those things where it's like some people are just it's not that sacred of a time for them. Like it's just something that they do. Whereas, and I understand that. Um,
Mm.
so kind of approaching the final footsteps of this single and then the upcoming EP. What's something that you've learned throughout the last few years that you're kind of applying to this release?
I've learned that knowing what you want to say is really important, because if you don't know what you're trying to say, whether it's explaining where a song came from or the vision that you have for your project, nobody else is even going to want to know,
Mhm.
because it sounds like you don't know what you've spent all this time on, and you
Yeah.
don't know, you're not giving people a reason to say it's worth it for you to take the time to look me up on Spotify and play my song and add me to your playlist. It's that whole elevator pitch thing. So I think that's the first thing.
Mhm. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And when you kind of look at music as a whole, like when you're in these moments of realizing like you have to be wearing multiple hats, what's the motivation that keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
That's a great question. I mean, I think what is keeping me motivated in this season is that I am privileged enough to where this is my job now, and coming out of college, it's not something I have to make time for. It's something I get to do all the time because
Mhm.
I have worked hard to get a degree so that now I can do this.
Yeah.
So I think probably one of my biggest motivations right now is remembering nobody is going to tell you what to do or how to do it. Like, it's your choice, it's your decision. And I think that's really exciting because when I think about it, I've been waiting for this season ever since I was in middle school and high school.
It's like realizing that this is something that you've worked for and you've wanted for your entire life, and just the fact that you're going to get it speaks volumes, because a lot of people, they go through the whole process of wanting something and then they get to that point and it's like, yeah, I don't want it, or they don't realize the opportunity that they have in front of them. So I'm glad that you've laid the groundwork, and you've done all the groundwork to get you here now, and now you're taking advantage of it with a full project. And I'm assuming you're playing shows pretty consistently, or how often are you playing shows right now?
Right now, I'm playing shows probably every other week, but it's about to get a lot more consistent because
Nice.
I'm going on tour.
Nice. What's the tour looking like? Where you headed to?
Yeah, so currently we've got a 12-day tour. This is my first time doing anything like this, so we're starting small and mighty. But yeah, the tour spans from late September to early November, and we're doing mainly southeastern dates. It's predominantly just me and my guitar, like most
Mhm.
of my shows are, but I do have a couple of full band shows. The one of the biggest dates that I have in mind is the release, the EP release show,
Mhm.
and that is October 5th in Nashville at the Basement, which is an awesome kind of historic venue here in town. And I'm really excited about that. So if anybody is in the Nashville area or wants to do a little day trip, it would be a great opportunity to hear the songs how they're played on the record.
Nice. Do you have plans of going to back home on this tour? Going to play back home?
Yeah, I am closing it out with a couple of homecoming shows in
Nice.
Fairhope and in Mobile. And I am hoping, it's still in the works, but I'm hoping to do a couple of school shows at some of the
Mhm.
high schools, just to kind of connect with the students and, be like, hey, I went to school here and this is what I'm doing now. And yeah, I think it could be fun.
Nice. That's really cool. So taking a step back from everything outside of music, what do you do to kind of decompress when you need to step away? What are some of your hobbies outside of music? Stuff of that nature.
I love anything old. So just like antiquing, classic cars, um, old houses. I love all of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
If you can't, if you're watching on Twitch, you can kind of see my room here. I've got a lot of little trinkets from antique stores and different things around. So that's what I like to do for fun. And started doing this is not an ad for F45, but I do love it. I started doing some workout classes
Hmm.
with F45, and that's been really fun. So yeah, just trying to stay active in this season and like make time for lovely little things like going on a antique run
Hmm.
and thrifting and all that good stuff.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I need to. Last year, I got really into like fitness and trying to get healthy, and then I tore my ACL, and I just kind of
Bummer.
stopped. And it's like I kind of want to get back into it because I know I need to, but that injury is just kind of like this mind barrier where it's like
Yeah.
I injured myself, but I really need to get back into this. So maybe not push it so hard, but
Yeah,
I don't.
that's scary though, whenever you have an injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, I didn't have to go in for surgery, so that was really nice. Like they were able to kind of fix everything without going in, so that was cool. But I don't know. It was a bad time there at the beginning of the year. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
what's the antiquing's always been really interesting to me. What's the most interesting or unique thing that you picked up antiquing?
Ooh, that's really fun. I'm looking around my room here. That's great. I found one time I found a dress in an antique store, and it was right after Blue Satin Lace had come out,
Hmm.
and it was the funniest thing. It had pink satin
Hmm.
like in the base of the dress, and then this blue lace over the top, and I was like, huh, blue satin lace, there you go. So
Nice.
that was kind of cool to find that. And on top of that, there was a picture of the woman who owned that dress on her wedding day with her husband, and so that was sweet to kind of know where it came
Mhm.
from. But yeah, that was probably one of the cooler things that I found. It was very kind of perfect for that timing with the
That,
song coming out.
that's cool. I need to get back into that a little bit. I did it for a long time, and I go to there's an antique shop down the street from where I live, and I'll go every once in a while because they're very active on Instagram. So anytime I see them post something kind of cool, I'll go be like, oh, I got a couple extra bucks. Let me go swing over there. But it's really interesting just kind of going through the shops and seeing stuff that people didn't want anymore or whatever it is, and just revitalizing it and repurposing it. So
For
yeah.
sure.
but but yeah, so just kind of moving forward, you've got the tour, you've got the release, staying very busy. It's got to be a very exciting time for you.
Yeah, thanks. It is. I'm praying that I keep my head on straight
Right.
and just enjoying the ride and inviting some friends into it. And part of that is the weekend after I have my EP release show in Nashville, I'm hosting something over here in East Nashville that I haven't announced yet. So this is, kind of sneak peek into
Mm.
it. But I'll be talking about it soon. I'll be having a mini music festival here in East
Nice.
Nashville. It's going to be called the Hive Fest,
Nice.
and it's going to be hosted at a meadery here in East Nashville, a honey tree meadery. So it's all kind of within that theme,
Nice.
and looking to get some honey farm sponsors. And we've got 6 acts playing 30 to 45-minute sets, and it's kind of an acoustic vibe, and that is on October Friday the 13th. So getting a little spooky on that day. But yeah, that's one thing I'm really excited to bring some of my friends into. I think it'll be fun.
Nice. That's so sounds really fun and entertaining. Just kind of these small music festivals that showcase local musicians are really cool. Like I've been to a few similar things like that, and it's always interesting to see, just I don't want to say undiscovered talent because that just sounds super mean, but like talent that you wouldn't normally find, and just walking in expecting one thing and you just see all this amazing talent. It's absolutely fun. So,
Yeah.
and it's a super low key environment. It's not like your traditional music festival where you got to go sweat out in the hot sun all day and, try and figure out how you're going to stay hydrated and all that stuff. So, uh,
Exactly.
cool, cool. So if anybody wants to check out your music, any of that stuff, any stay up to date on releases, shows, all that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
Definitely follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Summerlyn Powers. Another thing that people can do is go to my website, summerlynpowers.com, and join my newsletter. I have a newsletter and fan club called Summerlyn's Cottage. And every couple of months, I send out kind of an update on all my music that I have coming out and all my shows as well.
Nice. And then just for fun, we're gonna play a little game here before we wrap this up.
Great.
It's called That's So Random, and I'm gonna ask you two random questions from the random question generator.
Okay, great.
So, what social media network do you check the most?
Instagram.
What is something you think is worth spending a little extra money on?
Oh gosh, probably too many things. Um, a good massage.
Sure. And then
Yeah,
just this one, because this will be interesting. Would you rather never have to worry about money or your health again?
definitely health for
Fair,
sure.
fair. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. I really enjoyed our time together. And anytime you want to come back on, feel free to reach out. We'd love to have you back on. Um, other than that, thank you all so much. We will see you all later.